Welcome to the Transformation Perspective. I'm your host, Harper. This is season 2, episode 6. I'm supposed to be focusing on mental health, but I guess this is my way of doing mental health. Today's episode is called Understanding Fascism. With so many things I see across social media, across the internet, I think we need to have an understanding of what fascism actually is. So, as a social scientist, as an educator, and everything like that, I figured that would be a good episode to bring to you. So, without further ado, here is episode 6, Understanding Fascism. So, I've got some definitions and terminologies here for you to try to understand and try to pick one of the four, and think where you fall in this ideological spectrum. Let's start with this one first. Social organization which advocates that the means of production, distribution, and exchange should be owned or regulated by community as a whole. Okay? And how about this one? Extreme nationalism, militarism, supremacy of the nation over the individual, overthrowing or exchange of existing systems of government, and the persecution of political enemies. Yeah. And how about this one? Commitment to traditional values and ideas with opposition to change or innovation. Favor free enterprise, and favor private ownership, and favor social traditional ideas. And the last political ideology that I've got for you is willingness to respect or accept behavior or opinions different from one's own, or openness to new ideas. It promotes individual rights, civil liberties, democracy, and free enterprise. It's government solving problems, embracing change, and rejecting inequality. So, of those four ideologies, which one would you prefer? It's called wait time is teaching, so that's what I just did. So the first one I read of the social organization, which advocates for the means of production, that's socialism, right? Goes on to say also that government or public should own and control resources. It's not always government control. It also means public, right? Socialism also social democrats advocate for healthcare and free college education. Then I do believe I said the extreme nationalism, militarism, supremacy of that's fascism. All right, and that's mainly what our topic is today. Basically, it is, yeah, the system of government of persecution of political change, highly conservative in championing traditional values, claim to support that everyone, but in reality, but aligned with powerful business interests. Yes, that is definitely your fascist. Your third one was conservatism. Prefers less government control in the economy, free market capitalism, sometimes government involvement in personal matters like abortion or marriage. Usually has a view that the world is more dangerous than it is. So this would influence like gun ownership, right? And backing law enforcement or law and order kind of thing. And opposes idealistic notions of progress. So they are not for change. And in education, we call that a fixed mindset. And liberalism basically focuses on issues like same-sex marriage, transgender rights, and the death penalty, women's rights, voting rights, civil rights, environmental protection, ensuring a decent standard of living for all, and they're open to change. So we in education call that fixed mindset. Now, socialism falls in the liberal spectrum on the left. Fascism falls under the spectrum on the right. You go from conservatism to nationalism and then immediately go into fascism. All right. So that's the ideological perspective. It does go also vertically with libertarianism in there, as well as populism and a whole bunch of different aspects too. But to keep it simple, those are the basics that are out there. So why, you might ask, why, Harper? Why are we talking about fascism? It doesn't exist. It's not here in America. Well, as a social scientist, we look for context clues. We look for cause and effect relationships, and we understand the past and how it's influencing the future, right? So we can take the past events and learn from them, right? That's the beauty of living now and not during World War II and after World War I, so 1920s, 1930s, 1940s, during the fascist regime, the rise of fascism in Europe. We have the luxury of having that history, right? So as a social scientist, we can look at these facts or use the scientific method, being a scientist as well, using those facts or objective observations and applying them to the context or contextualization that we have today. I know, not the most exciting stuff to listen to, but it's very important to get well educated about the events that are happening. So, things that continue to happen in the last 9 days, today being January 30th, 9 days under the Trump administration, should spark some red flags. Conservatives think it's the best thing, a shakeup. Trump is a bull in a China shop, wrecking everything. This is great. We need this. We need someone who's not a politician to really shake it up. Mussolini in Italy was not a politician. Hitler was not a politician and shook things up. Trump is not a politician and is shaking things up. Right? As a society, you don't want to say, well, put the labels on those people. But you look at comparisons. That's the thing about having history at your hands and fingertips, right? You can look at it, contextualize it, compare, contrast, similarities, cause and effect relationships that you've got, right? Removing people from offices that don't fit his political agenda are diversity, equity, inclusion supporters. Let's remove those, all on ideology aspects. So fascism. Where's the similarities we're starting to see? And that is where I'm going to show you, as a social scientist, in this transformation perspective, right? Video casts that I do, right? To show you what is happening. And maybe the red flags will spark. Have a voice, all right? If you're watching on TikTok, right, check me out on my YouTube channel, the full-length episode. You need to educate yourselves. Right? I don't want to tell you what to do, right? So I'm sorry for that one. But please, please educate yourself because knowledge is power and then enthusiasm will throw a switch. Okay? Check me out on the full episodes on YouTube. Follow me, subscribe, like it. All right, back to the content here that we're focusing on. So fascism. There are 5 stages of fascism that you should really recognize and you should make observations to. So, like teaching the scientific method in science, you need to make observations and start asking questions. That's the big thing, important thing about in society. Start asking questions. start making observations, right? You have five senses, start using them. Now, obviously, you can't really taste the government. You can't taste the changes that are taking place. Maybe you can smell things that are changing in the environment, right? Can you touch them? Maybe. Depends on what you're referring to, right? You can hear things, whispers in the wind, right? Things that are said on the media, right? You can see things, okay? Tasting, smelling, right? You can definitely see them, you can hear them. Maybe you can touch the change that's taking place, a loved one that's being affected, right? So use your observations. A lot of times as people, we make subjective observations, but really in science, it's objective observations. And we try to eliminate our emotions or feelings behind it. And we try to use objective observation, which is just data, and facts, and historical evidence. And then we start asking questions. And social scientists do the same exact thing. We look for those inquiry questions. What is happening? Why is it happening? Who is it actually really affecting? What's the alternative motive? Why are we canceling DEI programs? Why did Trump blame DEI programs and Democrats in the Biden administration for the armed helicopter leaving the Pentagon and American Airlines crashing? Why? Why would the president decide to fabricate a lie or false claims? That's not true. There's no facts to back that up, right? That's what fascism starts as. So let's go through the 5 stages before I start rambling on here. So, stage 1 of fascism. So, stage 1 is called emerging out of disillusionment. That's a big word. So let's define disillusionment, because that's what we should do in vocabulary context. If we don't know something, we should look it up. So disillusionment is the feeling of disappointment resulting from the discovering that something is not good as one believed it to be. Maybe we felt that was something. Maybe you had high hopes about, oh my goodness, you heard about this from like a friend, this new restaurant, and you're like, you gotta go there, you gotta try this is the best, and you go there and it's like, that wasn't that good. That's a disillusionment example, right? Or a politician who you're disillusioned by. We have this now, right? Massive political. The Democrats are, they're lying to us. They're corrupt. Or the Republicans are lying to us and they're corrupt. The Democrats just want social agendas and take over by the government. So do the Republicans. They want government involvement and takeover anyway, right? So the first thing it starts with is disillusionment. Basically is you're trying to create this disappointment in society, right? A feeling of disappointment resulting from the discovery that something is not good as one believed it to be. What does it sound like? Make America great again, right? Here's the disillusionment. America's not great. Let's make it great again. It's bad. It's disgusting. It's dirty. There's criminals coming over here. The most vile criminals are being sent here by other nations. Where does that sound familiar, right? That's that disillusionment that is being created. It's propaganda, for one, right? America's super fantastic at propaganda. We've been using it since colonial times, everybody, right? To paint the picture that loyalist, the king was the problem with everything, even though this country was founded on gangsters and mobsters. Yes, definitely studied the Revolutionary War because that's actually true. That's how this country was founded. But anyway, disillusionment is basically painting the picture as like you thought it was great. The American dream was there, but it's not. Right? There's the disillusionment. Make America great because it's not no more. It's terrible. Right? So here's where it is. Here's the connection, the contextualization to try to understand fascism and the connection that what's happening now. So Hitler promised to tear up the Treaty of Versailles, right? And restore the country's honor, right? We were treated terribly after World War I. Terrible treaty. Terrible. Just terrible. It's the most terrible thing I've ever seen, right? Where have you hearing this before, right? Trump. Here's the connection. These are terrible trade deals. Absolutely terrible trade deals. We're going to get out of them. Paris Climate Deal. Just awful. World Health Organization. We're getting out of it. We're getting out of the WHO. The WHO? Right? We're getting out of it because it's terrible. We spent all that money. It's not benefiting us. So this disillusionment that Trump is creating or has created, I should say, right? He promises the golden age, right? Here's that charisma that Trump is using. Hitler used the same thing. Charisma. Mussolini had a lot of charisma. Two big-time fascist people that we well know in history books, right? Had a lot of charisma. And Trump, I'll give him best credit. He has a lot of charisma. We haven't seen that much charisma in a political figure, and I really don't know. Teddy Roosevelt? I think Teddy Roosevelt had a lot of charisma. If he was alive today with social media, holy smokes. Because he was out there. He was talking. He had charisma. Right? So Trump has this charisma. Make America great again. Trade deals are bad. We need to get America great. We need better trade deals. Tariffs. This is going to be the golden age. These are all promises. Similar to what Hitler, similar to what Mussolini was promising. These things that hurt Italy, things that hurt Germany. We're going to make Germany great again. We're going to make Italy, the Roman Empire, great again. Disillusionment that things are bad and say we need to fix them. Create a problem where there necessarily isn't that big of a problem. The second stage of fascism that you transition to. This isn't a quick fix, people. This is a slow buildup, and it takes time. And fascism, they are patient, right? So once you have this disillusionment, you go to establishing legitimacy as a political party. You create your own political parties or movements to challenge the ruling establishment through the ballot box and often violence in the streets. This is what happened in Italy. This is what happened in Germany. Oh, yeah, it also happened in the United States on January 6, 2021. The election was rigged. Go storm the Capitol. Take out Vice President Pence because he needs to overthrow the election and keep me in power. Sound familiar? Right? Political violence in the streets, on the Capitol. Right? Rigged elections. This is establishing legitimacy as a political power. This movement, the MAGA movement, it's not a conservative movement. Right? It aligned with the conservatives. The conservatives made a deal. You're gonna find out what happens to the conservatives in Nazism. Conservatives didn't survive, right? So what also this is in this establishing legitimacy as a political party is attracting favorite followers who organized armed militias. Militias? The Second Amendment says that, right? Right to bear arms under an organized militia. If you listen to some of the January 6thers coming out of their pardons, remember, observations also include listening, right? Listen to what's happening. Mind your surroundings. Pay attention to the environment around you. That is key, right? So, what happens? Italy. The black shirts are formed in Italy. What happens? The skirmishes with political opponents on the streets. Does January 6th ring a bell again? Right? Does ICE raids right now? That's kind of weird to say. ICE raids. Very sounds like a winter storm. Not trying to make fun of anything. It's just me as a scientist, kind of. Anyway, yeah, ICE raids coming to your house or stores or wherever, and just stopping you at traffic stops, busting your windows open, taking you out of the car, whatever the stories are out there. It's insane, right? Skirmishes. You see that now? Observations through sight, observations through hearing. Pay attention to your environment around you and start asking questions. Don't hold back. You need to ask questions. It's not to stay silent for the next 4 years. It's not to go into hiding for the next 4 years and saying, well, we just got to make it through the next 4 years. But if you don't do anything, there might not be anything in 4 years. So what happens then? When you have this legitimacy in the political party, you start to push a propaganda narrative. You already see that, right? We are strongly seeing this big push propaganda. Trump, 9 days, massive propaganda narrative. That I would say with massive amount of executive orders. I would say it's like a dump truck. By dump truck, by dump truck, right? It's just like, where you want the gravel? I didn't order that much gravel. Oh, and the wood chips. What? And the rubber pellets. Well, are we building a playground set here? That's the thing. You overwhelm the system. So it's propaganda. This becomes propaganda, right? The narrative. Then your press secretary goes on. Then Trump goes on. You start making these propaganda. It's DEI. It's the Democrats that are causing this. It's the trans people. It's the illegal immigrants that are animals and savages and the criminals, and they're so violent and rapists. It's all fear tactic propaganda messages that are out there that are being created by legitimacy of political party. So what happens? Germany states, we could have won World War I, or the Great War back then, if not for the unrest at home. Does that sound familiar right now? They're eating our dogs. They're eating our cats. That would be unrest, right? The immigrants. They're all violent. Every single immigrant coming here is violent. They're all criminals. The worst of all. That's like saying the indigenous people in the colonial time, they're all savages. They're all beasts. They're all... What is this? They're human beings. Why are we dehumanizing them? They're a living, breathing human being created out of the same image that you believe in. If it's some kind of religious belief, if it's Allah, if it's Jesus, if it's Christ, if it's God, if it's some kind of Hindu, if it's some kind of spirit, whatever, we are all created the same. Based on biological aspects, right? We all have cells, cellular function taking place. We're all humans. Stop stripping us of our humanity. Right? So what does Germany do? What does the Nazis, I should say, do? So they start accusing a group of people, right? We all know the Jews, right? Accuse the Jews, people, and left-wing activists of undermining the country's war efforts. It's their fault. We lost the war because of the Jews. We lost the war because of those leftists. Now let's reverse this around. The economy is doing bad because the Democrats. The economy is doing bad because of the violent criminals. The economy is doing bad because of the wokeness. This is the new one in the last 9 days, right? So what's next? You start moving it to from wokeness to start targeting individuals, singling out individuals. It's going to turn to people like me. The economy is doing bad because of trans people. They're indoctrinating us with their beliefs. That's why things are bad. That's what Germany did. Sorry, not Germany. Nazis did. Fascist Nazis. All right. So Trump is blaming immigrants for the problems in the U.S. Now claiming also DEI is the cause of the problem, and the Democrats too. Every issue, the wokeism in schools, in government agencies, in our businesses, apparently in our planes flying in the air, everything. What's next? Our food? Our gas prices because of wokeness? Yeah, what about those eggs that Trump promised to bring down? Is that because of trans people? Is that because of DEI? Is that because of immigrants? That hasn't come down yet. Once again, make observations between sight, sound, and start asking questions, because that is important. And what happens in Nazi Germany? The brown shirts are created. And what do the brown shirts do? Very similar to what the black shirts do. They go on the streets and intimidate people. They cause skirmishes. They round up people like the Jews, and eventually the blacks, and eventually the gays. And where do they put them all? In concentration camps. Oh, wait, are we doing that now? Because Trump just passed and wants to pass an executive order, or he did. There's so many executive orders. This is what I mean by flooding it. Saying that he wants to send the most violent criminals, immigrant criminals, to Guantanamo Bay. Do you really believe he's going to... What? See, that's a subjective observation that Trump is making, not an objective observation. There's facts about that. His view, his subjective observation is literally every immigrant is a violent one. So it doesn't matter who they are, a mother, a child, an infant. They're all going to Guantanamo Bay, which is then considered a concentration camp. It's all in an isolation group, right? You isolate them away from the public, and you can do whatever you want to them. That's what it's for. Torture them, kill them. Doesn't matter. There's no human rights at Guantanamo Bay. Start asking questions, people. All right, so the third concept here for fascism, it's getting better, right? You're just feeling great here, is gaining power via right-wing partnership. Oh, but I love conservatism. Oh, I like conservatives. I like liberal ideas. I consider myself more of a moderate, right? So here's the thing is, in Italy and Nazi Germany, you have nationalism is on the rise. So pride for one's country, right? Law and order beliefs on the rise. Okay, so very high, strict law and order aspects, right? I'm pretty sure Trump promised we are going to have law and order. He said that like the first Trump administration. Now he says it again. Then you have conservatives recognized the shared hatred and fear of socialists. Well, back then it was basically conservative and socialists. So this rise of fascism, conservatives decided to join forces with the fascist party. Well, we have here in the United States, we have liberals, so Democrats, and we call social democrats, but the right says they're all socialists. No, I defined what a socialist is. Okay. That's no. No. Okay. So what do you have here? Trump dehumanizing immigrants, the anti-woke movement, agenda towards the DEI and transgender people, and creating fear. So there's that fear connection, right? Where are we going to bond with people? So if we bond with this propaganda and fear aspects, so this MAGA movement is not conservatives, right? Think about back to the primaries. Oh God, Harper, don't talk about that. Yes, think about Nikki Haley, right? The last true conservative trying to stand up against Trump, right? What does everyone else do? Every other one that dropped off, I back Trump. I back Trump. Eventually, Haley does, but a reservation there, right? And now the conservatives back him. And now no conservative seems to want to go against Trump because now we're in power and we have power and everyone loves power. And power does corrupt everybody. So what happens now is you create this fear. Trump has created fear within the conservatives. If you don't support me, I'm getting rid of you. And you can see this in the first 9 days, right? Clear. We're going to clean house. Sending out memos, you're gonna force resignations, you're out, you're paid leave, whatever. You don't back me, you're gone. Can't really do that to elected officials, but any aides or anything working federal employees basically clean house on that. But do you see any conservatives going to ever stand up against Trump now? No. You got Liz Cheney stood up. Well, look what happened to her, right? Had to get a pardon. Outgoing president had to pardon her just in case you got persecution, which we're getting to, by the way, yet. Yeah, it's coming. So this is what I'm saying. The fear that comes, the intimidation factors, shared beliefs that, hey, partner with me, back me. Because if you don't, you're going to feel my wrath. So conservatives align. Let's keep looking at history, shall we? So, with this third agenda here, conservatives thought it was a short-term thing, right? The MAGA. Even conservatives say Trumpism is not going to last forever. Democrats, Trumpism is not going to last forever. Unfortunately, it's here to stay. For how long is the question? What is the government going to get morphed into? Or is it going to get morphed into just Trump and fascism? Or Trumpism, which would be fascism, right? So conservatives miscalculated. This is step 3 of fascism. Miscalculated. They would control the government and all the affairs and use Hitler's charisma. Conservatives, this is a prediction. This is a hypothesis of mine. So if then statement, if the conservatives support Trump, then they can use Trump's charisma to get what they want in their political agenda. Now let's test it. What do you think is going to happen if you don't fully support him? You bend to your will. You give up your moral grounds and stands. Conservatives miscalculated this judgment of what actually it was. The warning signs were there, and you ignored them. Make your observations, cite sound observations, objective observations, not subjective, objective, fact-based, data-based, historical-based. I'm giving you historical, objective observations right now, right? So then what happens then? You go to the fourth shift, the fourth stage, using power to dominate institutions. Yeah, we're already there, kind of. Removal of all non-Nazis from government shortly after Hitler became chancellor in 1933. Trump is already removing anyone that doesn't support his ideologies or promotes the DEI agenda. Interesting. We want complete Trump support ideologies here. 100% backing. So then what happens next? You start stripping the Jews of citizenship. Awkward silence there for this one. Trump's executive order to end birthright citizenship under the 14th Amendment. That's called stripping citizenship, everybody. You eliminate some people from your country, right? So expelling anti-Nazi professors from universities. We haven't heard that one yet, but Trump removing any DEI hires or those that work in that department. That's my similarity. That's my comparison. That's my contextualization, right? Then Hitler banned rival political parties and enabled himself to rule by decree. Basically, Hitler single-handedly, without oversight, created future laws. The Supreme Court granting presidential immunity? Question mark? Or statement? What are the limits of the president in this case? Or Trump's case? If he has absolute immunity, and also he's a lame duck president, basically. Well, that's what we assume, right? He'll do anything. All these executive orders, not using the legislative branch, not asking Congress to enact any of these things. I'm just going to do them myself. I'm going to test the powers of the executive branch and then overwhelm the courts. Then no more elections. Hitler has no more elections. By 1938, there are no more elections, right? So Trump claimed if he got elected, no one would need to vote again. He said that at a rally. I'm just joking about that, right? I'm just joking. Nope. So then what happens in this stage 4 under Hitler and Nazis? They pass the Nuremberg laws, which is changing the flag to the swastika and illegal for Jews to fly it. Now, we haven't changed the American flag. I doubt we're going to change the American flag. I can't say that 100% for sure because Trump is very much America, 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 and very nationalistic ideologies. So that probably would not change, but I don't know, the MAGA flag. Yeah, MAGA hats. Okay. Then citizenship under the Nuremberg laws. So distinction, who was German? So defining who's American, maybe soon. Contextualization, asking questions, right? Also, then, who was a Jew? So defining who a Jew was, defining who a German was. Oh, wait, Trump already did that. We're going to define, America is going to say we have two genders, male and female are the only two sexes, or whatever he said, right? That's a Nuremberg law, right? Stripping German Jews of their rights to hold office or vote. Interesting. Is this what we're going to get to? Is this foreshadowing? Is this predicting the future? Is this making an observation, asking a question, and making a hypothesis to make the educated guess of what is to come? If we're stripping all DEI, we're saying, hey, an executive order that all transgender care for ages 19 and under are now illegal, right? We're taking away rights of people, okay? What's next? Can't vote? Just saying. And lastly and then this Nuremberg, the big ones, Nuremberg is the blood, right? Prohibited marriage and sexual intercourse between Jews and non-Jews. Ooh, do we not have a Supreme Court case that Justice Thomas wants to hint it at? Or Idaho is trying to push back into the Supreme Court about same-sex marriage and trying to get that overturned, and most likely with a 6-3 majority on the conservative side, same-sex marriage will be overturned and make it illegal again, right? All the plan that there's out there, right? Annul existing marriages. So if that gets to the Supreme Court again, and that any same-sex marriage will be nullified under this administration, right? And then any new unions are punishable by law, which I could see happening too, right? Prohibited Jews from employing non-Jewish women under 45 in their household. We're already seeing that with like employees being punished if they are hiring illegal immigrants. Oh, and if you are doing any DEI work, you're getting punished in the federal government. Anybody yet terrified? Then the last stage of fascism is implementing radical reforms. This is employed chemical weapons against local resistant movements and imprisoned their members in concentration camps. This would be the Guantanamo Bay, sending the most violent criminals to Guantanamo Bay. But really, in reality, it's any immigrant, for that matter, that they say is illegal, regardless how harmful they are. Could be a mother, could be a child, and send them to concentration camps, isolation. And who says he would stop at that? He's already targeting DEI. Who says he wouldn't start targeting? Like, we need to round up all the trans people because they're the problem as well. Then we got to round up all the gays because they're also the problem. Make America great again, right? That's the message. It's part of the fascist ideology that's there. Lead to mass incidences of rape and indiscriminate killing of thousands of people. I'm just going to point this one out, make another prediction, educated guess, hypothesis, that these ICE raids that are going on, this would be the indiscriminated aspect that's happening. People who are just speaking Spanish that are American citizens are being targeted. Racial profiling, saying you look like a migrant because you look like a Latin American or South American. So therefore, we're going to stop you. The same thing happened in Germany. You put out pictures and say, Jews have big noses. Propaganda. Right? And then what do you have? The Italian government banned Black and Jewish people from marrying white Christian Italians. I could see that happening under this administration. If we're on this anti-wokeness of, DEI, we could easily see that. Right? We're already taking away rights of trans people of not getting any medical treatments. Awesome. Oh, and then we had genocide of, millions of people in Germany. Oh, yeah, then invading other countries. I think Trump said something about he wants Greenland, Canada, and Panama. Just saying. So all the writings on the wall, all the contextualization, and maybe, yes, you're watching, you're a conservative, you're like, this is so BS, Harper. Absolutely BS. Then put the blinders on. Because the same thing happened in Germany. Same thing happened in Italy. You turn a blind eye and say, this isn't happening. But the beauty thing of it is we have this. We have the history textbooks. I have another one here for you. The Holocaust began basically by persecution of Jews, right? We read about that in fascism aspect. Mass deportations of Jews, but not just Jews, also blacks, also gays, right? That is what Nazi Germany did. They targeted. It's all propaganda techniques. And they moved them to other areas. Guantanamo Bay for immigrants. It's all connections, right? Crucial steps for the Nazi Germany is the ultimate goal of the genocide. Separate and isolate people. Don't let anybody know what's happening to these people. And no one's going to ask questions. So this is why I say make observations and then ask questions. And then start formulating a hypothesis and test it. Use the scientific method on them, right? So then you have all these deportations. Wait, are we doing that now? Yes. Mass deportations, Trump says. Okay? So concentration of the power. So deportations allowed the Nazis to concentrate Jewish populations into ghettos, camps, making them easier to control and exploit. We're doing that to illegal immigrants. And I have a feeling with this massive push on anti-wokeism and DEI and trans people are the next to be targeted. Dehumanization. Oh, that's happening, right? The process of a forced displacement and confinement stripped Jewish people of their homes. Illegal immigrants. And who says he wouldn't stop at that with other people? Trump would, right? Stripping them of homes, belongings, their own dignity, dehumanizing them in their eyes and of their basically their images, propaganda, like I said, indicating big noses. It's all propaganda images. Same thing. Trans people are predators. Trans women are just going into the bathrooms and trying to like grope women, and they're trying to look at women, and no. All false claims and fear tactics that are happening. And then you have logistics of genocide. Deportations were key to logistic steps in implementation of the final solution, which basically is the mass extermination. So is that what Trump is trying to do? Mass extermination? We're not going to send these people back. We're just going to kill them at Guantanamo Bay. And no one's going to know about it. Observe and ask questions. This is why it's crucial to remember the Holocaust. Because it wasn't a sudden event. It was gradual escalation of violence and discrimination over a time period, right? Initial deportations, while seemingly less extreme, were a critical step in the path to genocide, right? It all started before the Olympics in 1936 in Berlin, Germany. And to get the Olympics, they had to scale things back a little bit and hide everything that was happening for the last 3 years. And then as soon as everyone left, it explodes. We're only 9 days in. So have your voice. What you can learn from this is I just taught you something. And that's the key thing, is all about education. Yeah, maybe my video casts are long, boring to you because, it's like I'm back at school. But education is so important. So critical to anything we do. So it's not time to sit around and we have to just make it through the next 4 years. Because guess what? Under the fascist regimes in Germany in 1932 to 1933, they're like, well, we just got to make it to the next election, and then we can get rid of that regime. And then all of a sudden, that election never happened. Are you really willing to risk that based on what history tells you? Or you're going to find the courage to support someone that has the voice, or you have the courage because you have the voice to stand up with your voice, make observations through your sight, make observations through your hearing to know what's going on, make objective observations through data collection, factual collection, and historical context. Then start asking questions and start formulating a hypothesis of what is going to happen. So I leave you on that note. A lot of things are happening. All I try to do is present you with factual information with my own perspective. That's why it's called the transformation perspective. So thank you for watching. I know it's a longer episode, but I do appreciate the time and effort you put in. Please like, please subscribe, please share out. That is the biggest thing you can do to support the trans community right now, is share out my feed. I have a voice. I'm willing to share it because I hid for 30 years. And I'm not willing to go back in hiding for 4 years. Actually, I'm not going to go back into hide for 4 years to make it through the next 4 years, because I'm going to voice myself. And if you're looking to support me as a trans woman, you don't know how to, please share my videos. Educate others. That's all I ask of you. Thank you for watching. Love you all. Please take care of yourselves. If you need some mental health, please reach out to 988, right? If you're struggling with suicidal ideations, right? Please take care of yourself. Self-care is so critical, especially now. Tune out sometimes. Just put the phone away for like an hour, 2 hours, do some self-care. Meditate, watch one of your most favorite movies, color, paint, journal, go for a nice, beautiful walk. And these are times we need to disconnect to voice ourselves. Stay healthy out there. Like it, subscribe it. Thanks for watching the Transformation Perspective.